Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video, we're going to talk about a question that I've gotten a lot over the years in terms of the Reflex set versus the Relentless set, because they both have kind of a similar function for which situations they are good in, but there is definitely a difference, and you'll want to make sure and get your champions optimally geared and take advantage of these two powerful sets by making sure to use the right one in the right situation. So we'll talk about when to use Relentless, when to use Reflex, and which champions are going to help you bring the most out of those artifact sets, and also when they make sense to use them. So let's get into it. Alrighty, now right out the gate, something I want to talk about really quickly is I've done hundreds of account takeovers at this point, and something I can tell you from seeing a lot of accounts over the years is that basically every single endgame player has a ton of Relentless gear. It's one of the sets that people usually have the most of. I'd say it's like Relentless, Cruel, and Immortal for endgame players for the sets that they actually have the most of. Well, Speed also, because people love to keep those speed pieces. But Relentless would be up there in the top 5 for one of those sets that people keep way too much gear on. And the reason is because Relentless is tough to get. You can't really farm it. You can only get it by winning tournaments and finishing high and things like that, and getting Relentless as a special reward. So people don't like to sell it. They want to hold on to it because they don't know how hard it's going to be for them to acquire more Relentless pieces in the future. So I get it, but it's just something to take note of, as a lot of times people keep way too many Relentless pieces, and you may not end up using as much of it as you think you're going to use. And you can actually see this even on my account, where there's my Relentless and there's my Reflex. I've probably got like 2.5 times as many Relentless pieces as I do Reflex. So yeah, keep that in mind. You'll probably end up, once you get towards the end game, you'll have a lot more Relentless than some of these other sets. And with Reflex specifically, sometimes people don't have as much of this because it is not one of the desirable dungeons like the Fire Knight, where you're getting the Savage and the Regen and some of those sets that people really aspire towards. Reflex being in the least desirable dungeon means it could end up being at a premium because you'll have less of it given the dungeon that it is in. But getting back to the topic at hand, the reason that people get confused on which set to use in which situation is they both have kind of a similar function. You've got 40% chance to reduce a random skill cooldown, and this was actually buffed. It was 30% for like the first 2.5 years of a Raid Shadow Legends, and then it got buffed up from 30% to 40%. Reflex was already a set that I was championing in the raid community. I've loved the Reflex set since the beginning of time, and I've always thought that it was really underrated. When I got buffed from 30% to 40%, it was no longer underrated, and people started noticing that Reflex set can be really, really powerful on the right champion. And also, Relentless is going to function kind of similarly because it's an 18% chance to grant an extra turn. So both sets will kind of help you cycle through your cooldowns a little bit faster, but they are definitely very different in terms of which champion they are best on. So we'll start first with Relentless. Now, one of the most famous champions in Raid that gets built in Relentless is going to be Syl of the Drakes. Syl of the Drakes is an amazing login reward champion, and one of the best things that Plarium did for like something for the health of the game. Great design here of an awesome champion that isn't like so good that it breaks the game or something. So they did a great job with designing Syl. But the reason that Syl is going to be so good in a Relentless set is because every turn that she gets an effect that procs off of that. You see here the passive: heal all allies but 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn. So Relentless, if she takes an extra turn, this is just going to do this effect twice when Syl takes her turn and procs that effect from the set, and also place a 30% increased speed on a random ally for 2 turns. Now, Relentless wouldn't be as good on her if this was increased speed on a certain, like, increased speed on the ally with the lowest HP. Well, when she does her or the lowest attack or whatever, you know what I mean? But since it is random, we have a chance to get more and more value for every turn that she takes, and this passive will not get extra procs if you put her in a Reflex set. So that is why on a champion like Syl, proccing the extra effect here of the passive, that Relentless would be a way better choice for her than Reflex. But another thing that you want to look at when you're trying to determine Relentless versus Reflex is what is the default skill? What does it do? So if you've got a default skill that is insanely impactful like an Allure is an epic champion that lowers turn meter with her default ability. A lot of times people with Allure will just go ahead and lock out her other skills so that she is just constantly spamming the A1 anyway, because we just lock out the A2 and the A3 because we just want her slamming this decreased target's turn meter by 25% on crit as just the main thing that she does every time. So Relentless would also be insanely good on Allure, even though she is not proccing the effect of a passive, because the default ability is super impactful. So basically your summary is, do they have a passive that procs an effect every time they take a turn, or do they have an extremely good default ability? Also, another thing to consider is that Relentless will kind of pseudo get better the better your gear gets on your account, because the higher that your champion's speed go, the less impact a speed set has. So where it'll start to make sense to put somebody in Relentless versus a speed set, because a speed set gives you 12 speed, but the Relentless set is 4 pieces. So you're basically sacrificing, like basically another question that you get is Relentless set or speed set better? Because the speed set can actually be counted on, it can be planned for, it can be tuned around. The Relentless set cannot. It obviously has a lot of RNG. But if you've got a champion that has 150 speed, getting 2 speed sets on there can help you take that from 150 to 174, which is very impactful. But if you're going from 300 to 324, all of a sudden the percentage shift that your speed set is changing your champion is a lot less, because it is a way higher speed and a less percent of the effect. Then as we shift to the Reflex set and when that is going to make sense, you can see here I've got a Cold Heart that is kitted out in a Reflex set. Now, why would that be? So Cold Heart doesn't have a passive ability that's going to be providing a bunch of value like Scylla of the Drakes. Doesn't have a default ability that I'm really counting on like an Allure. So what I want to do is I want to cycle through her cooldowns as fast as possible to get as many Heart Seekers off as I can to speed up my runs. Like when I'm using her in the Fire Knight, the faster I can cycle through to get these Heart Seekers off, I can lower the average expected clear time of my Fire Knight team by getting those cooldown procs on the Reflex set. And also, the higher that cooldown number is, the more impactful the proccing the effect of lowering the cooldown is going to be. So, and also on the new Fusion Fragment champion that we just had in Mighty Uko, I actually think is a pretty solid candidate for the Reflex set. Another reason being is that you've got 2 different abilities here that are a 4-turn cooldown and a 4-turn cooldown when booked. So because we've got a little bit of a longer rotation of cooldowns, it's not 3-3 like a lot of your legendaries nowadays have, like a default 3-3 for their different rotations, or maybe a 3-4, but Uko is a little bit towards the longer side of 4-4. Well, you can lower the expected rate of return on the cooldowns of the abilities by throwing Mighty Uko in a Reflex set. So I actually think the new Fusion would make a good candidate for the Reflex set. And if the goal is just to cycle through cooldowns as fast as possible, obviously the Reflex set is going to be superior to the Relentless set, because you're going to be getting 40% instead of 18% for proccing that effect. Mighty Uko is not going to really benefit from a Relentless set, because the passive is not based on Uko taking a turn, it's based on something happening on the enemy team. And the default ability, you're placing a decreased attack, it's already mostly going to be permanent, and we're not really building the A1 as a damage dealing ability in most scenarios. So for Mighty Uko, it would be Reflex set superior to Relentless set. So yeah, hopefully this helps you understand the relationship between these 2 semi-similar sets and when each one is going to be superior to the other one. And in short, the summary would be: use Relentless if they have a very impactful passive that procs based on turn, like Scylla of the Drakes or Doom Priest, to an Eric, something like that, with an amazing passive going off every turn with Cleanse or Heal or something like that. Or they've got an amazing and impactful default ability like Allure that you are really counting on for your strategy to constantly suppress the Fire Knight's turn meter or something like that. That's going to be a situation where Relentless would really shine. but use a Reflex if it is going to be a situation where you're just trying to cycle through cooldowns as fast as possible. You don't have a super impactful passive, you're not really getting a ton of value out of the default ability based on the champion's design, and you just want to get those impactful cooldown abilities cycling through as fast as possible, then go with the Reflex set in that situation. And yeah, if you have any other questions about sets or different things that you would like to see covered on the channel here as a discussion, would be happy to listen to your input as well down below. Or if there's anything that I forgot to add in terms of Relentless versus Reflex, or what your experience has been using these different sets, would love to hear that input as well. But yeah, as always, remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy daily Raid Shadow Legends content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.